Hello, I'm Shasta Quinn with the Orange County Library System, and we're here at the Hiawassee branch in Orlando, Florida. Today is January 9th, 2013, and we're capturing memories from the community. Can you please tell us your name and where you're from?
Okay, my name is Joan Healy. I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and my husband and I came down here with 3 children in 1966 to join his uncle and his brother in a business that he was just getting started and he needed help. So, and that business was located on Old Winter Garden Road, just near Hiawassee, and it existed there from that time until about 8 years ago when they moved out to Claremont. And when we started out, we had about 5 employees, and now we have like 250 employees.
Wow.
It's grown, right, and started out just, it's an irrigation business, manufacturing sprinklers, regulators, and other, varied products. And so from just making sprinklers for orange groves, it's expanded now to, the Midwest, South and Central America, and out east, like Australia, New Zealand, and so forth. So we're selling worldwide. We've been very successful and very, very pleased that we came to the community. We have our roots real deep here. We still live in the community, in the same house that we moved into in 1969. We rented from 66 to 69 and then built a house, and we're still there, raised our family. We have 5 children. They all went to St. Andrews, Bishop Moore, off to college, and they all have children and live just about everywhere. We only have one in the community here, but so that's where we got started, and that's where we still are.
Great.
And happy to be here.
And so you live in Pine Hill?
Mm-hmm. On Blossomwood Lane. Have wanted to move a few times, but just felt like it was still home.
Can you tell us, do you belong to any local organizations?
Well, when we first came to get acquainted, since we didn't know anybody, we joined St. Andrews Catholic Church since we were Catholic, and our children were ready to go to school, first grade, our oldest, and also joined Welcome Wagon at the time, and that turned out to be a wonderful way to get acquainted. Back then, they'd have a hostess who, I don't know where they got the names, the new peoples, but they would go visit, and they would take with them all kinds of community information. So people would know where to go to the doctor, or what was going on in the community. It was real helpful information. And then tell them about the club, and we were like 100 members.
The Welcome Wagon
Welcome
Club?
Wagon was, and we did social things. We had guest speakers, and our big project was always the Edgewood Boys Ranch. Jack Lind, I don't know if that name is familiar to anyone anymore. I don't know even if he's alive, but they started out in Claremont with 2 boys, and then when they got like 20 boys or so, they moved to it's just off of Old Winter Garden Road in Hiawassee. It's still called Edgewood Ranch Road, I believe, and I believe there still is a ranch there. But at that time, we would do fundraisers for them, and we'd go and we'd help the boys, like take them to appointments, tutor, sometimes do some simple sewing, just anything that we could do. And then, of course, we had our social things, too. We'd have fundraisers like we had a bridge group that would raise money for them, and that sort of thing. And have monthly meetings with guest speakers. It was wonderful. But, again, like a lot of things, it kind of just petered out. But it was very active for, I'd say, the first maybe 10 years that we were here.
And can you tell us a little bit about the Edgewood Boys Ranch? It was a residential?
Yes, it was for boys that, had problems of one sort or another. I mean, they maybe, I don't know nowadays who would go there. I'm not sure who does go there anymore, but at that time they were children that were having difficulties at home. And so they would have like parents, foster parents that would live there with the boys, and hopefully they would come out to be good citizens.
Yeah.
So that's what we did when we first came here. Those were the main things. And of course, very involved at church. Our church celebrated 50 years. Let's see, it was 1957. So it was already 9 years old by the time we got here. But in 2007, they celebrated 50 years. And that was a real special occasion. But in the meantime, there was always, the 25-year celebrations. There were a lot of athletic programs. They always had, not so much for the girls back then. Girls were mostly cheerleaders. We had 4 daughters and a son, so we had a lot of cheerleaders, but it ended up a lot of basketball games because I was the cheer mother often, But anyway, very active in the church and the school for all those years that the children were there. And I'm still active. I still am a minister to the sick, and I've done that for, oh my goodness, for almost as long as I think I was a member of the church. We take communion to the shut-ins, mostly older people, and I love it. It's the one thing that I've stayed with all these years. A lot of other things you do, you know, when your children are in this or that, and you go on to something else, but that's the one that's been kind of continuous since I've been a member of St. Andrews, the one I really love. And then, of course, Focus came into existence, and I honestly don't know the year, but I'm guessing maybe 15, 20 years ago, maybe not quite, and got involved pretty much from the start. And that appealed to me because it was ecumenical. It was helping. It wasn't doing for the people, it was empowering the people to improve their community. And so it's kind of a multicultural, faith-based organization.
And what sorts of things did Focus do?
Well, like what they would do is each church, and there's like, you know, maybe 15 churches now currently involved. I don't know for sure. But in each church would have something that they would do specifically. They would, you know, you go around and you do one-to-one visits and find out what the needs are in the community, and then you do some research on it, and then you have a big meeting where you invite the ones that could help you, like maybe the mayor or the code enforcement officer or whatever the issue was. You would invite them to a big meeting and then hopefully get some kind of improvement to the problem that you were, you know, finding out was the problem, the problem. And then you'd reflect on it and go from there and on to your next project. So St. Andrews would have certain projects, but then there would be projects that would involve all the churches. And some of those projects, we got after-school programs in all the middle schools. That was a long time ago, and I'm not even sure if that still is working. We also worked with the sheriff at the time. He had a program that we helped with get funding from the state for. It was when boys, juveniles would, it would keep them from coming back. The recidivism rate would go down. It was a program that he instituted, and it was a good program because I can't remember the percentages of the boys that would repeat, but it went way down. So that was something that we worked with at St. Andrews. There are two other churches in the Pine Hills area that were active at one time. That was the Methodist Church, Pine Hills Methodist Church, and the Episcopal Church here in Hiawassee. Neither one of those are real active now, but the Methodist Church got the light over in Hiawassee and Balboa. There were a lot of accidents over there, and they got that situation fixed. We worked on an ordinance, a junk car ordinance at St. Andrews. We saw, I don't know if you were here then, but there used to be people just parking their cars all over, junky-looking cars, and it really made the community look awful. And we worked with code enforcement and got an ordinance written so that if the car did not have a current license, they could tag it, and then people had to do, you know, there was a certain process that they would have to go through in order to, you know, get that car fixed or removed or whatever had to be. Anyway, it was, the code enforcement liked it because before it was a program that if the grass was a certain height, you know, all kinds of subjective kind of things that had to be, it just didn't work, obviously, because we had that problem. And this worked a lot better. And you won't see as many junk cars out there as you used to. And then we worked with Evans High School. That was blighted. Trying to get it higher up on the priority list for improvements or renovation. And we did get it up higher on the priority list, but then ran into a real problem because they were going to take the school and put it out in Ocoee, and that was a problem with the people in Ocoee. They didn't want it. So it took 3 years or so before they finally decided it would stay in Pine Hills and that they would, you know, build a new school. So in the end, it really didn't happen any quicker, but we did work on it, trying to get it, you know, raised on the list. There's a priority list, and we worked on that. But in the end, it was probably pretty much the same time it would have been otherwise. But it just was in such disrepair. It was a shame, you know, that the kids would be going to school there. Now we have that wonderful, not that we had a lot to do with that wonderful school, but, you know, that was what we envisioned. That was a problem, and we're so happy to see, you know, how that has turned out. Those are some of the things. But the bigger projects, I was talking about the program with the sheriff and the after-school programs. And then we started at St. Andrews with trying to improve the kid care program. That's a program for children, with uninsured children. They make just a little too much money for Medicaid. And so they were not insured, and there was some funds called S-CHIPs. It was S-CHIP. It was a federal program. And you could apply for it, but a lot of people didn't know about it. It was, not advertised, marketed well. It was the process to get this money for insurance for the children. You could call and be on the line for an hour, just waiting. It was just a really poor process. So we went up to Tallahassee and talked to, it was Alex Sink at the time, and she said she could do things that wouldn't require, she could just fine tune them, which she did. It got better. And so we were pleased about that, and even took the kids from St. Andrews up there, and that was wonderful. We had at Focus in our church, we had an adult group, and we also had a youth group. And the youth group went with us up there and had a marvelous experience, because a lot of them never been to the Capitol before, and they went in the big room where the governor sits and sat around the table and were spoken to just as if they were adults. They were treated wonderfully, and they were listened to. They were telling them, about their friends who didn't have health insurance, and, it was just a really good experience for the kids. And we were so proud of them, because we always opened our meetings with prayer. And so we asked the kids if they'd like to do it. Oh, they raised their hands. They were willing to open with prayer. They were just so enthused. So that was a good thing. And the S-CHIP was passed up in Washington, D.C., so it was reauthorized. So we were okay down here. It was just a matter of making the process in the state a better way for them to get this health insurance. So that was another thing. And that was it started with St. Andrews, but it kind of broadened into healthcare, a bigger healthcare issue as far as all the other churches combined. So, and we've had candidate nights at St. Andrews for sheriff. This was not recently, but within the last couple elections, but not maybe this last election. They had it up at Robbinswood this time, at the community center, but we used to have them at St. Andrews. And, that's just a few of the things we've done that come to my mind. I know there's more.